Welcome to another deep dive. We've got some really cool audio for you guys today, all about marketing and consumer behavior. Some pretty wild stuff in here, actually. You'll hear about the Beatles, Christina Applegate, and even Twinkies.
Sounds like a wild mix.
It is. You guys sent this stuff in, which means something about it really grabbed you. So let's dig in and see what we can learn.
One of the things that ties all these examples together is the idea of familiarity, like how much it shapes our choices. And we don't even realize it half the time.
Yeah, that's a good point. So let's start with the Beatles. The audio talked about how they struggled at first to break into America.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine now, right? Like, they're the Beatles.
I know, you think they'd be an instant hit,
Yeah.
but they had a lot of pushback.
American record execs just weren't into it. The Beatles were just too different. Their look, their sound. It was jarring to American audiences back then.
It's crazy to think of them as anything but iconic. I mean, everyone knows them now, but back then, those haircuts, those collarless jackets, it was considered a huge risk.
Totally. And that's where Brian Epstein, their manager, really comes in. He was a marketing genius. He knew he had to, bridge that gap, make the band more relatable to Americans, make them familiar.
Okay, so how did he do that?
Well, he used some smart tactics, for one thing. He called their first American album Meet the Beatles. It's like an invitation, you know?
Oh, yeah, smart.
Exactly. He positioned them as friendly and approachable. And he was tapping into something really fundamental. Like, we're wired to like what's familiar.
Wait, there's a term for that, right?
It's called quinophilia.
Yeah.
It's more than just liking what's comfortable. Studies show we actually process information more efficiently when it's familiar.
Interesting. So, our brains like it because it's easier.
Yeah. Subconsciously, we connect that ease with safety and pleasure.
So koinophilia affects us more deeply than just, I don't know, feeling comfortable with something.
100%. Think about it. We tend to find people with average features more attractive. Why? Because they're familiar.
Right.
It's like looking at a slightly different version of yourself.
Whoa, that's kind of trippy. It totally reminds me of what the audio said about Christina Applegate. They were saying that her being average was a big part of her appeal.
Absolutely. She's attractive, but not super unique. She's the girl next door, someone you feel like you already know.
Makes sense. But familiarity can also backfire, right? The audio had that example of the guy who stayed at his friend's beach house, and he couldn't sleep because the ocean was too loud. But his friends who lived there, they didn't even notice it.
That's a perfect example. Familiarity can lead to numbness. We get so used to things, our brains just tune them out. It's like a built-in overload protector.
Huh, that's interesting. So how does this all tie into, brands and stuff? The audio was talking about brands like Starbucks and Gap and how they've had trouble staying, fresh.
Right. Companies have to walk this line between familiarity and novelty. You get too predictable, and people get bored. But you also can't just ditch what made you successful in the first place.
Sounds tricky.
It is. The audio mentioned Lexus, Mini Cooper, and even how Datsun changed their name to Nissan. These are all examples of, calculated change. They give people something new and exciting, but still leverage that brand trust they've built.
And brands themselves are a shortcut to familiarity, aren't they? They even talked about Warren Buffett's investment strategy. He loves well-known brands.
It's true. Brands are like mental shorthand. We see a logo or hear a jingle, and boom, we instantly connect it to feelings and expectations. And those are usually good feelings, which is huge for buying decisions.
Okay, get this. The next part is about American optimism, and it starts with a story about a guy who wants to be buried upside down over Marilyn Monroe.
That's hilarious.
I know, it's so perfectly American, that idea of, hoping for the best, even in the afterlife.
It's not just a funny story, though. It gets at something really deep in American culture. This belief in a brighter future.
Yeah. And they had some stats to back this up, too. Americans are way more likely to believe in miracles and stuff than people in other countries. And we're also more likely to say we're satisfied with our lives, even when things are tough financially.
That makes sense if we think about familiarity, too. America has been seen as the land of opportunity, right? Abundance, new beginnings, it's built into our national character. And that has a big impact on how we respond to things, including marketing.
It seems like that optimistic outlook could also be a problem, though. The audio was wondering if maybe our belief in a better future contributed to the housing crash back in 2008. People making risky financial decisions.
That's a really interesting question. Did our optimism get the better of us? There were a lot of factors at play, of course. But it's definitely worth thinking about how our natural optimism might have influenced things.
Yeah, Okay, this next part blew my mind. There's a connection between Steve Jobs being into calligraphy and the fact that we have, like, a zillion font choices on computers today.
Really?
I know. Who knew?
That's actually a perfect example of this huge shift we've seen in the 21st century. The rise of design. We're visual creatures, and we want beauty in our lives. It's everywhere now.
So we've gone from typewriters with one font to computers with millions of fonts, just like that.
Yep. And it's more than just making things pretty. Design is about communication persuasion. Products have to be functional, sure, but they also have to look good and make us feel something.
Like with those Twinkies we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Design is everywhere, from product packaging to how we present ourselves online. And that leads to a big question. How is this focus on visuals changing the way we think and make decisions?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's a question with no easy answers, but it's definitely worth exploring.
That's a really good question. I mean, think about it. Design really is everywhere these days. The audio gave some good examples of how even little design tweaks can make a huge difference. Like, remember that Blue Moon beer thing? Sales went crazy just because they started serving it with an orange
Oh
slice.
yeah, that's a classic example.
Like, suddenly it wasn't just beer anymore, it was this whole fancy experience.
It's amazing what a little visual appeal can do. Suddenly you've got a ritual, not just a drink.
And those Serums wine coolers, too. They made the bottles look more like beer bottles, and bam, sales jumped over 10%. People really do judge a book by its cover, don't they?
All the time. Those visual cues, they just totally mess with our expectations, and even how much we enjoy something.
But it doesn't always work, does it? Like, what about Tropicana? Remember they tried to, like, modernize their packaging, and it was a total flop. Sales tanked, and they had to go back to the old design.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of how you gotta be careful when messing with a familiar brand. They took away that image of the orange with the straw, which everyone associated with Tropicana, and it just backfired. People didn't trust it anymore.
It's a delicate balance, huh?
For sure, design is powerful,
Mm.
but you can't just make things pretty. You have to understand how those visuals affect people, like on a deeper level. Their emotions, their perceptions, and ultimately their behavior.
This whole familiarity thing really is fascinating. It ties into psychology, sociology, even history. So much more than just marketing, really.
Totally.
It makes you think about all the things that shape our choices, both big and small, and the stuff we don't even realize is influencing us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we can't forget about optimism, especially in America. It plays a huge role in how we react to advertising and just, how we see the world in general.
It's funny, right? We started with the Beatles and Christina Applegate, and now we're talking about design psychology and national optimism. You never know where these deep dives will go.
That's what I love about them. It's like this big web of ideas, all connected. You just got to pull on a thread and see where it leads.
Speaking of unexpected connections, this last part about design really got me thinking about how we consume information these days. Everything's so visual now. What about you? What stood out to you from this section?
Well, it's definitely true that we're living in a super visual world. But the example that really hit me was that one about the football player's resume. How the coaches rated him higher just because his info was presented in a fancy PowerPoint.
Oh, yeah. That was wild.
It's like design can even influence something as seemingly objective as a resume evaluation. We're just hardwired to respond to those visual cues, whether we realize it or not.
And that makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are we letting design persuade us too easily? Are we trading critical thinking for pretty pictures?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And it's a scary thought.
Yeah, it makes you want to take a step back and really think about all the messages we're bombarded with every day. Like, how is design being used to manipulate our choices?
Both ethically and unethically, right? It's like a whole new level of awareness that we need to develop.
It's eye-opening for sure. I'm definitely going to be looking at design in a whole new way now, thanks to this deep dive. It's amazing how we started with the Beatles and ended up questioning our entire worldview.
And it all goes back to that one simple concept: familiarity. Crazy, huh?
So true. We really went deep on how familiarity influences everything. Our taste in music, who we find attractive, the brands we buy, even our national identity, it's everywhere.
And we saw how companies exploit that too,
Mhm.
using it to their advantage in marketing and product design. It's all about connecting with people on that deep, familiar level.
But this goes way beyond marketing, doesn't it? This deep dive has got me thinking about familiarity in my own life, like in my relationships, my habits, even my core beliefs. It's powerful stuff.
It is. Familiarity at its core is this basic human need. It makes us feel safe, comfortable, like we belong. But as we talked about, it can also make us complacent, unaware, It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's all about finding that sweet spot, between appreciating what's familiar and staying open to new experiences, new ideas. It's a balancing act.
You said it. It's about recognizing how powerful familiarity is, but not letting it control us. We have to be aware of the forces that shape our choices, and then make conscious decisions that actually reflect what we value.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. This whole deep dive has been like, I don't know, getting a new pair of glasses or something, seeing things in a whole new light.
I know what you mean. That's the cool thing about exploring these ideas, right? It's not just about learning facts. It's about shifting your whole perspective.
And it feels like we just scratched the surface here. There's so much more we could dig into.
Oh, totally. That's the beauty of it, though, isn't it? There's always more to discover, more layers to peel back.
It's a journey, for sure. And what a trip this has been. We started with the Beatles and ended up talking about how design shapes the way we see the world.
Wild. And to think, it all started with this idea of familiarity, something we usually don't even think twice about.
Seriously. We went deep on how familiarity affects everything, like what music we like, who we're attracted to, the brands we trust, even our national identity. It's mind-blowing when you really start to think about it.
We also saw how companies use that knowledge to their advantage. Whether it's through marketing or product design, they're always trying to tap into that familiarity to connect with us.
But this goes way beyond marketing and consumerism. This deep dive really got me thinking about familiarity in my own life, like my relationships, my habits, my beliefs. It's pretty profound.
It is, because familiarity is a basic human need.
Right.
It gives us comfort, security, a sense of belonging. But we also saw that it can backfire, make us complacent if we're not careful.
That's why it's all about balance, right?
Yeah.
We need to appreciate the familiar, but also stay open to new things, new ideas, new experiences. It's a constant balancing act.
Couldn't agree more. We have to recognize the power of familiarity, but not let it limit us. Be aware of the forces that shape our choices, and then make decisions that are true to ourselves.
This has given me a lot to think about. So many new connections to make, rabbit holes to go down.
That's what we hope for, to spark your curiosity, inspire you to keep learning, and see the world in a different way.
Well, mission accomplished. So, to our listener, keep thinking about these ideas. Notice how familiarity shows up in your life. Challenge your assumptions, get curious about new perspectives, and most importantly, never stop learning.
It's like we always say, there's always something new to uncover, something new to understand, something new to appreciate about this crazy world we live in.
That's the truth. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll catch you next time.